Right now, somewhere in the Sahara, an ant the size of a pencil eraser is sprinting across sand hot enough to kill her in 90 seconds, navigating home using a math equation, running inside her legs. In the Brazilian rainforest, 200,000 ants are building a bridge out of their own bodies. In Borneo, a worker just detonated herself like a chemical grenade to save a colony that will never know her name. 20 quadrillion ants. No leaders, no brains, no plan, just chemistry. And that chemistry built a civilization that makes ours look young. It also kills them. Routinely. And they can't tell the difference. This is how ant colonies actually work. Every system, from the first wing beat to the last death spiral. You're standing in a field after a rainstorm. Puddles still sitting in the grass. And from every direction, the ground starts to move. Tiny wings catch the light. Thousands, then tens of thousands, of winged bodies launch straight up, filling the sky like smoke from a slow fire. This is the nuptial flight, the opening act of every ant colony ever built. Mature colonies wait for a specific cocktail of conditions: barometric pressure drops, humidity above 80%, soil temperature dialed in, and then they release. Everything. Virgin queens and males, all winged, all airborne, swarming in chaotic spirals up to 300 meters off the ground. A single colony can push thousands of queens into the air in under an hour. The males mate and die. That's their entire life cycle. One flight, one purpose, gone. But the queens don't have it much better. Predators tear through the swarm. Rival colonies intercept the stragglers. Temperature swings kill the rest. Out of every 1,000 queens that launch, maybe one, survives long enough to touch dirt again. And the first thing that survivor does? She bites off her own wings, rips them from her body, one at a time. She'll never fly again. She'll never see the sky again. She doesn't look back. Nature's most expensive lottery ticket, and the house wins every round. But landing is just the start. Because the queen who survives the flight is about to face something worse than predators. She's about to face herself. Alone. Underground. With nothing to eat but her own body. You're 3 centimeters underground. No light, no sound. A chamber the size of a marble sealed shut from the inside. One queen. 0 food. This is claustral founding. The loneliest phase in all of biology. After she seals herself in, the queen has no way to forage. No workers. No stored food. So she does something that sounds like science fiction. She digests her own flight muscles. The massive thorax that powered her through the sky. She metabolizes it, dissolves it from the inside, converts that muscle protein into eggs, into saliva, into just enough biological material to raise her first generation of workers. If that first batch fails, if the larvae don't develop, if the temperature's wrong, if a fungus hits, she starves to death inside a tomb she dug herself. And here's what breaks every rule in biology. Ant queens don't age the way everything else does. They don't slow down. They don't lose fertility. Their egg-laying rate actually accelerates over the years, running at peak output until the exact moment they die. No decline. No warning. Just full speed, then nothing. But even the most productive queen can't build a colony alone. She needs workers, soldiers, specialists, and the way the colony decides who becomes what has nothing to do with genetics. You're looking at 2 larvae in the same chamber. Same mother, same genes, same nest. One will grow into a massive winged queen who lives for decades. The other will become a tiny, sterile worker who dies in months. The only difference between them? Lunch. This is nutritional epigenetics. The colony's caste system, written in food. When workers feed a larva, the quantity and protein concentration of that food determines everything. High nutrition triggers a hormone called juvenile hormone, which flips a developmental switch, unlocking the genetic pathway for a queen or a major soldier. Low nutrition? The larva crosses a lower threshold and locks into a minor worker body. Permanently. A queen can weigh 8 times more than a minor worker in the same colony. The difference isn't genetic. It's dietary. The colony doesn't sort its citizens by talent or aptitude. It manufactures them. 95% of the population exists because they were deliberately underfed as infants, stunted, sterilized, and locked into a body built for labor. The queen who digested her own muscles to raise her first brood, She now watches every egg she lays get sorted by diet into future queens and disposable workers. She doesn't choose. The workers choose for her. But a caste system means nothing without coordination. Millions of specialized workers need instructions. They need to know where to go, what to do, and when to stop. And there's no boss. No central brain. So how does the signal travel? You're walking through a colony tunnel. Every surface is coated in a chemical residue you can't see. Pheromone signals layered so dense, they dictate every decision every ant in this city will make today. This is the pheromone network, the colony's operating system. Ants have between 300 and 500 distinct odorant receptor genes. Fruit flies have fewer than 100. That's not a small advantage, that's the difference between a walkie-talkie and a fiber optic internet backbone. Every pheromone molecule carries data, food location, colony identity, threat level, reproductive status. The ant doesn't think about the message, it receives it, and its body responds automatically. And this system is so deeply hardwired that if a single gene, a co-receptor called orco, gets knocked out during development, the ant's brain initiates a fail-safe. Programmed cell death. The olfactory neurons destroy themselves. The ant can't smell. And in a society built entirely on smell, that means she can't function, can't communicate, can't exist as a member of the colony. She wanders through her own home like a ghost no one can see. The colony doesn't run on loyalty, it runs on chemistry. And if you can't read the chemistry, you don't exist. That chemical network doesn't just coordinate behavior, it reshapes the colony's metabolism itself, in ways that mirror something built on a much, much larger scale. You're watching two workers carry the same load, a dead beetle, roughly twice their body weight, across the same distance. One belongs to a colony of 100, the other to a colony of 1,000,000, same species, same task, same body. But the ant from the smaller colony burns measurably more energy doing it. Her metabolism runs hotter, she wears out faster, she dies sooner. The reason has a name, Kleiber's law. In biology, bigger animals burn less energy per gram than smaller ones. It governs everything from mice to elephants. Ant colonies obey the same law, but at the population level. As the colony grows, each individual ant's metabolic rate drops, not because she's doing less, because the system around her is doing more. Dense populations suppress unnecessary movement. Food changes hands faster. Chemical signals travel shorter distances. The colony optimizes itself the way a city does. More citizens, less infrastructure per person. The individual ant has no physiological independence. Her metabolism is throttled by the density and chemical atmosphere of the masses around her. She's not an organism, she's a cell. And just like any city, the colony needs infrastructure, ventilation, climate control, systems that keep 3 million residents alive underground without a single mechanical part. You're 6 meters underground. Millions of ants exhaling carbon dioxide, fungus gardens generating heat, decomposing waste releasing toxic gas. By every calculation, the oxygen should have run out hours ago. But it hasn't. Something down here is moving fresh air through solid earth. Leafcutter ants build passive ventilation systems that rival human engineering. Their nests feature elevated turrets and strategically placed openings that exploit surface wind. When air moves across the top of the mound, it creates a pressure differential, a Bernoulli effect that sucks stale, CO2-laden air up and out while pulling fresh oxygen down. Through peripheral tunnels. No fans, no motors, pure physics, shaped by mandibles. The result? The soil around a massive leafcutter nest actually has lower CO2 levels than the empty forest floor beside it. The nest is a carbon dioxide chimney for the surrounding landscape. In autumn, the colony closes 90% of its surface openings to trap heat and protect the fungus gardens, which need a constant 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, and near total humidity. They don't just build shelter, they build climate-controlled agriculture facilities. But not every ant digs tunnels. Some live in environments where the ground itself is a death trap, and survival depends on something far stranger than architecture. You're in the Sahara. Surface temperature, 70 degrees Celsius. The sand is hot enough to kill in minutes. And sprinting across it, at speeds that, scaled to human proportions, hit 52 kilometers per hour, is an ant the size of a pencil eraser. This is the Saharan silver ant, and it navigates with math. Out here, pheromone trails evaporate instantly. There are no landmarks, no visible paths. So the silver ant runs an internal algorithm, a biological GPS built from two inputs, a sun compass that reads polarized light patterns in the sky, and a step counter, a literal pedometer inside its legs that measures stride length and frequency to compute distance. As the ant wanders chaotically across the sand hunting insect corpses, its brain continuously calculates a home vector. When it's ready, it doesn't retrace its steps. It pivots and sprints in a dead straight line back to a nest entrance smaller than a grain of rice. Researchers tested this by gluing tiny stilts, pig bristles, onto the ants' legs. The stilt ants overshot their nests every time. Because their stride math expected shorter legs, if a gust of wind picks a silver ant up and drops it a few meters sideways, the vector corrupts. The ant is lost, irreparably. It'll die on the sand within the hour, running a perfectly calculated line toward a nest that isn't there anymore. The math is flawless, but it doesn't forgive. And in the rainforests of Central America, a different species solved a different problem, not with math, but with bodies. You're watching a river of ants pour across the jungle floor, 200,000 bodies moving as one, and they hit a gap, a crevice between two leaves, a chasm in the bark. The column doesn't stop. It doesn't go around. The ants build a bridge. Out of themselves. Army ants use a decentralized algorithm with one rule. If you feel weight on your back, freeze. Lock your jaws. Lock your claws. As the first ants reach the edge and slow down, traffic piles over them. Each ant that feels compression stops moving and becomes structure. The bridge extends. First a cantilever, then a full span, until the column pours across. Nobody knows how long the gap is. Nobody designed the bridge. The structure emerges from a million blind bodies following a single tactile rule, and when the traffic drops, the pressure eases. The bridge dissolves. The structural ants unlock and rejoin the march, as if the bridge never existed. If the gap is too wide and the cantilever fails, the living bridge collapses under its own weight. The structural ants fall. The column keeps moving. The colony doesn't mourn its infrastructure. It rebuilds it, out of whoever's next in line. For a moment, the system looks perfect. Pheromones coordinate millions. Math navigates deserts. Living architecture spans gaps no single body could cross. Every mechanism slots into the next like gears in a machine built by no one. But there's a flaw in the system, a fatal one. Because when your entire civilization runs on follow the ant in front of you, one wrong turn doesn't just cost a life, it costs thousands. You're looking down at the jungle floor, a circle of ants, hundreds, then thousands, marching in a perfect loop. Round and round. No destination, no exit, just motion. This is the ant mill. The death spiral. Army ants are blind. They navigate by following the pheromone trail of the ant ahead of them. If a column gets separated and the lead ants accidentally loop back onto their own trail, the circle closes. And every ant behind locks into the loop, because the pheromone signal is strong, fresh, and chemically indistinguishable from a legitimate path. The largest recorded death spiral stretched 370 meters around. It took 2.5 hours for a single ant to complete one revolution. They marched for days. There's no override. No ant breaks rank. No ant questions the trail. The system that coordinates 20 quadrillion insects across every continent on Earth, the same system that builds bridges, farms crops, and wages wars, has no error correction. The ants march in a perfect circle until every single one drops dead from exhaustion. It's not a disease. It's not a malfunction. It's the algorithm working exactly as designed. But when the algorithm works, when the chemistry and the bodies and the math all align, ants don't just survive. They build civilizations. You're underground again. But this chamber doesn't look like a tunnel. It looks like a greenhouse. White fungal webs stretch across chewed leaf mulch, blooming in the dark. Tiny workers patrol the rows, weeding out contamination, adding fresh substrate, harvesting swollen nutrient pods. This is agriculture, invented by ants 50 million years before humans planted their first seed. Leafcutter ants don't eat leaves. They've never eaten a leaf. They cut them, haul them underground, chew them into paste, and feed that paste to a domesticated fungus, a species so heavily modified by millions of years of artificial selection that it no longer exists in the wild. The fungus breaks down the plant matter and produces the sugars and amino acids the colony actually eats. The ants farm it. They weed it. They quarantine infected sections. They dump contaminated waste in designated underground landfills. And that's just the crops. Some species run livestock operations too. Black garden ants herd aphids the way ranchers herd cattle. They guard the aphids from predators, stroke their abdomens to stimulate honeydew production, and selectively favor aphids that produce sweeter, more complex sugars. The ant's presence alone chemically stresses the aphids into altering their internal biology, producing higher quality sugar at a direct cost to the aphid's own health. And if the aphids stop producing, the ants eat them. 50 million years of farming. No famines, no subsidies, no debates about method, just output. But maintaining a civilization underground, millions of bodies in the dark, shoulder to shoulder, requires one more system. The one nobody talks about. The one that makes the whole thing possible and costs the colony its soul. You're in the nursery. A worker is grooming a pupa, scraping its exoskeleton clean, coating it with antimicrobial fluid secreted from a gland unique to ants. The metapleural gland. A biological antibiotic factory built into the thorax. Workers groom each other constantly, filtering fungal spores into compressed pellets, dosing them with secretion, and spitting them out sterilized. But when the system fails, when a pathogen gets through, the colony doesn't treat the sick, it executes them. Infected pupae emit a chemical distress signal, and workers respond by ripping open the cocoon, dragging the larva out, and spraying it with formic acid. The infection dies with the patient, no second opinion, no appeal. And the dead? They're handled by undertaker ants, specialists who locate corpses and carry them to designated graveyards far from the living quarters. But here's the thing, ants don't understand death. They don't recognize a dead body by sight or behavior. They wait for a chemical, oleic acid, that takes 2 days to build up in a decomposing corpse. Until that chemical appears, the body is invisible. Paint a living ant with oleic acid, and her sisters will seize her, carry her to the graveyard, and dump her on a pile of corpses while she's still kicking. She'll sit there, alive, until the acid fades. The chemistry doesn't care if you're breathing. You're inside a foreign nest. The walls smell wrong. The queen is wrong. But the workers don't know that, because they hatched here. Slave-maker ants have abandoned foraging, building, and child-rearing entirely. They raid neighboring colonies, slaughter the adults, and steal the pupae. The stolen children hatch inside the slave-maker's nest, imprint on the wrong queen's pheromones, and spend their lives serving the colony that murdered their family. They never know. But the enslaved workers aren't passive. Once they're mature enough to tend the nursery, something shifts. They recognize that the pupae they're raising belong to their captors. Not consciously, not by choice, by chemistry, the same chemistry that governs everything else. And in a silent, methodical rebellion, they tear the slave-maker larvae apart. One by one, they assassinate 66% of the next generation. They gain nothing from it. They're sterile. They'll never return home. They'll never reproduce. They kill to protect colonies they don't remember, driven by a genetic imperative older than memory. It's the closest thing in nature to revenge without a mind capable of wanting it. You're in the canopy, 40 meters above the forest floor in Borneo. A territorial skirmish between two colonies. Workers lock mandibles, bodies pile up. And one worker, smaller than the rest, charges directly into the thickest part of the fight. She doesn't bite. She doesn't sting. She contracts her abdominal muscles and ruptures her own body. Workers of Colobopsis explodens carry massively enlarged glands running the full length of their bodies, filled with toxic, adhesive secretion. When a fight turns unwinnable, the worker detonates herself in a spray of corrosive glue that permanently immobilizes the attacker. She doesn't survive. She was never meant to. Her entire anatomy was built to be a weapon she'd only use once. The colony doesn't remember her name. It doesn't have one. And that's how an ant colony works. Not with intelligence, not with leadership, not with anything resembling a plan. Somewhere underground, right now, a queen who ripped off her own wings and dissolved her own muscles is laying her 10 millionth egg. She doesn't know what she built. She can't see the tunnels, the farms, the graveyards, the armies. She just lays. The chemistry tells her to, and she does. No ant understands the colony. No ant sees the whole. Each one follows a chemical trail, responds to a tactile cue, obeys a hormonal switch it didn't choose, and can't override. And from that, from 20 quadrillion, blind, disposable, obedient bodies, emerges agriculture, architecture, medicine, warfare, and a civilization that's outlasted every empire humans have ever built. They don't think. They don't decide. They just follow the chemistry. And the chemistry has never been wrong, except when it has. And when it has, They march in circles until they die. Because the system doesn't correct. It doesn't adapt. It doesn't care. It just runs.